I mean, we absolutely knew this would happen. Battlefield Labs testing for the Battlefield 6 Battle Royale apparently began today, and we've already seen footage and got a lot of details leak out for what it's bringing to the table. Today we're going to run down what you need to know out of these and what you can expect to see from the experience. So drop your thoughts as we go along, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to subscribe to stay updated with all things Battlefield 6 and more FPS coverage. We've got a lot of really cool stuff this fall that I'm excited to cover with you guys across multiple game launches. So if you'd like to join the community, I'd love to have you. But anyways, let's get into it. So to preface, as always, unfortunately with this kind of stuff, I can't showcase images or video on screen in video as it's under NDA from those involved with Labs, or should be. Clearly it's broken from those that posted about it, but it's intellectual property of EA, DICE, and all parties involved until publicly released. So in the interest of liking to have this YouTube channel, links to relevant footage and source information will be found below. But today's information comes from Bob Network UK, who's a leaker in the primarily COD space, but who's been posting things from his prior Labs experiences, as well as about 14 to 15 minutes of footage of the game recorded and posted over on Bilibili. Again, the Chinese equivalent to YouTube, where apparently IP laws aren't exactly recognized there, so those source files are likely to remain up for quite some time as opposed to if they were here on YouTube. But anyways, let's start from the very beginning. Let's talk firstly about infill sequences. Firstly, there's a new infill animation taking parts of what we'd seen from the temporal leaks and other data mines in the past, and finally connecting all those dots together. The infill with the Chinook, then to players inside it, the loading sequence there, comparable to what you see in the main menu of multiplayer where the soldier was standing there. Instead, you have your squad sitting on the jump seats of the Chinook, where you can choose your class, weapons associated with them, and more. Talking about classes, we talked about in the official reveal that it was revealed that you'd have a locked class nature of sorts. That being, you get to choose at the beginning of the match what you want to play: assault, engineer, support, or recon, but that's what you get for the rest of the match. Now, Bob had detailed a little bit of what these will come along with, because in the Battle Royale sense, they're not quite one-to-one with what we see with multiplayer. But assault, you end up getting the assault ladder, HE grenade launcher, and an assault rifle signature weapon. That does match up with what we see with multiplayer, but the training and signature traits are a little bit different. The training, your passive, is you have a class gadget that resupplies faster. At your level 1, the HE launcher will shoot cluster grenades. 2, the ammo for the HE grenade launcher is increased, and then you have at the 3rd level the faster armor plating, which will be very beneficial in gunfights, it seems like. And your signature trait will allow for faster objective progress and to be quicker in combat. Engineer, you have that repair tool, you have an aim-guided launcher, and an SMG weapon. Your training will include a passive of faster class gadget resupply, a level 1 of a launcher hit temporarily disabling vehicles, 2, damaging vehicles reduces repair effectiveness, and 3, launcher aim guidance enabled. He had a question mark here on this because it seems like that might be something that might be a lock on at that point, perhaps, but the signature trait will allow you to take less explosive damage near vehicles and prevent enemies from occupying friendly vehicles when they're empty. However, you need to repair the vehicle to keep that effect alive. Support, you'll have a supply bag, smoke grenade launcher, and an LMG signature weapon, with a training of a passive of faster class gadget resupply, a level 1 of being in smoke speeds up revives, slows bleed outs, and improves regen, a level 2 allows you to revive and drag faster, and a level 3 allows you to carry more ammo and armor, and the signature trait allows you to distribute health packs. And finally, recon will come along with a motion sensor, drone, and sniper signature weapon, with training of a passive of faster class gadget regen, a level 1 allowing the drone to self-destruct, a level 2 allows you to down enemies and then spot their nearby teammates, and level 3, the recon drone can drop bombs, where the signature trait will allow you to aim at enemies to auto spot them. So there is some crossover with the standard multiplayer experience, but some stuff that is custom tailored to what we see with the Battle Royale itself. Now, right now, those signature weapons seem to, again, be like multiplayer and only offer an additional level of benefit, because in some of the footage we saw, the player had the engineer repair tool, but was also using an LMG. So with what was described here, the signature weapon is an SMG for the engineers. Or suppose it also could just be something they didn't pick up their sort of weapon crate yet or anything like that, but with how much they've stressed open classes recently, I wouldn't be surprised though if that is the case. Upon infill, you also apparently get to select your starting pistol, which is pretty cool, one of the 4 available there. And you also, on infill, when diving in, you'll have a jump master feature, it looks like, where you can land your squad together. It does have like these tethers to each of the player icons that it kind of looks like you can unlink if you want to go off on your own or something, but I find that feature to be nice. Land as a squad, get geared up for the action and ready to go all together. Next, let's talk about some combat and in-match features. Firstly, for some general combat perspective, according to Bob, everyone will spawn in with one armor plate slot, but you can find an upgrade for a second plate slot that seems to be maybe like a vest of some kind in some of the footage we saw. TTK apparently seems to be fast. You can see that exemplified a little bit in some of the footage as well, but there's weapon inaccuracy and recoil that mitigates a little bit of that. Apparently, you also have one free redeploy per player, but then if you end up dying more and want to be brought back, you have to capture a beacon of sorts to redeploy teammates. This will mark you on the map, apparently making you a target for everyone else in the area. He also mentioned that there is no sort of gulag or anything, so that redeploy is your only sort of initial entry back into it. Then you have to rely on your squad to end up getting you back in the game. As for weaponry, it appears from the infill footage that you can only choose one weapon at a time for your like weapon crate that you can end up getting, or your loadout of sorts. This was kind of a big worry for a lot of people wanting a more classical BR experience with the loot RNG playing a factor, making it work with whatever you've got type of mentality. So instead of having multiple weapons to choose from in a loadout like Warzone, making anything post early game and regains obsolete with ground weaponry and looting, this appears to at least kind of keep it relatively important still, which I can get on board with. Also, according to Bob, weapons come with attachments and weapon rarities, where that rarity can be upgraded via upgrade kits. This allowing you to have the option to choose between two upgrades like accuracy or capacity, meaning you can end up having a better weapon accuracy or seemingly the ammo capacity. Loot, according to Bob, there are class chests that will drop items that are useful to your specific equipped class, like weapon proficiencies, gadgets, and such. He said that XP pickups, he didn't really find those, but those are mentioned in the official reveal to be something. But he also mentioned there are special safes that can be only opened with Engineer's repair tool. Contracts we saw in the leaked gameplay, an example of this, where he had to destroy an MCOM station, where once you did, you got rewards via a container, and what they got out of that was a vest and a couple of different types of grenades. Vehicle containers were also seen in the leaked footage, where similar to Firestorm and the vaults, there was a tank inside. Now, this thing looked like it took about 45-ish seconds for the player to activate the opening sequence and then for it to actually be accessible. This one that was in the gameplay was in the middle of the street, so whether or not they're that open and in a sort of ambush position is entirely up in the air yet. We don't know if it's just one bad spawn that we saw out of this footage or if that's going to be how they kind of are. But if so, that gives players a lot of opportunities to ambush those enemies and take them out while they're waiting for that. However, that tank inside was pretty powerful and did have vehicle repair stations readily available where you could reheal the tank and get ammo back in to replenish. So technically you could stay in there a lot longer than maybe players would anticipate. However, in the leaked footage, past this point, the majority of it came inside the tank. But one thing you might take solace in is that there's a sequence, or rather two, the ending sequence where it blows up is another example of this, but there was a sequence earlier on where an enemy fires a lone RPG at the tank and it takes its health down to about 40%, meaning that with a bit of coordination, I don't think these are going to be too problematic. Also makes me think that having engineer like that is much more vital, definitely making class identity an integral part to this battle royale experience. Additionally, from Bob, he mentioned there's this thing called thermite sabotage that counters tanks by damaging not only the tank itself, but the crew inside by burning them slowly, likely forcing them out of the vehicle at that point, though no details on how to obtain those or use those were granted. In additional information about vehicles, there was a larger rib boat and featuring some of the aquatic gameplay here, where fun little mention, while they didn't showcase a whole ton of like what would happen with aquatic combat or naval combat in this particular clip from the battle royale, somebody actually did tweet out like, wow, we got naval combat within the battle royale, but not in multiplayer, to which David Serland, lead producer at DICE, just said, there's water, eh? As in like, that's going to be coming in multiplayer, it seems like, but I guess that might just be something a little later on down the line. But beyond that, let's talk about some additional information, some things that I picked up from this gameplay and what you can end up seeing out of it, but honestly is like kind of, I don't want to say inconsequential, but much smaller details that aren't as key to the gameplay experience. One thing is that it seemed like all the loot was floating off of dead bodies with no bag that you have to go into, which is nice. We didn't really see any footage of somebody going through the dead enemies and their loot bag. The big pool of loot was a vehicle that was destroyed by the tank, but they were in the tank and didn't get out to loot. So we don't know the auto pickup nature of it, if it exists. There naturally is lots of destruction possible. There was a lot of VO, but some things that ended up perking my ears up were a weapon drop incoming, that being the things like we talked about. There was a mention for enemy landing near you, make them pay, so giving you that sort of infill notification around you in that AO. And then also something that mentions hostiles closing in on your comms, engage the enemy when an enemy is closer to you. So I don't know if that's something that like if they just kind of come in your range, it's a notification of, hey, there's some people around here, or if it's just something that they were in a vehicle or something and it gives a call out like that. There was a ring prediction mechanic that once the countdown timer started for around 3 minutes for the next zone pulled, it seemed like around 50 seconds after that countdown started, so around 2 minutes and 10 seconds, 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. That's when it seems like it maybe zeroed in on that location for where the zone pull will be. And match length is something that the longer footage is 12 minutes in its entirety, but it picks up with 66 players left, and then they ended up dying in 8th place where there was about 13 players left. So might be a safe bet to consider that matches last anywhere around like 17 to 20 minutes in full, but nothing is guaranteed until we see, of course, a full match and how this actually plays out just yet. But that's the details we got out of this leaked footage and these leaked details from Bob. I'm very curious to see what the future holds here for this. One of the biggest things is the release plans of this, because on one hand, it kind of looks fleshed out. Like, we have a lot of stuff that does seem to be, in the gameplay loop at least, rather engaging. But on the other hand, it seemed like there was a lot of empty space that could be filled, and it also could be a bitrate thing from the footage that is showcased just not being great quality, but it seemed like a lot of texturing was off for like very early builds of that kind of stuff. So it's a weird thing because testing this early on, well before I personally thought they were going to test it, I kind of feel like they're testing this of like, oh yeah, we're getting ready for this kind of thing. So whether or not it's earlier and it's like a very early 2026, like January timeframe, or trying to squeak it in around the holidays for whatever reasoning there may be in terms of not necessarily sales if it's free to play, but you know what I mean? Like, that's a big push for a lot of developers. But at the same time, if it's not just the video bitrate, it could be rather ambitious if that's one of the things they might be targeting. Right now, all rumors are still pointing towards Q1's launch of 2026, but like, them throwing it into labs this early on is so strange to me. But I guess we'll see. Anyways, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Just want to fill you guys in on everything that you may have missed here out of today's newest leaks and details. We're starting that slow march for the next month here until the launch of Battlefield 6, and it seems like we're gonna be getting more and more as time progresses leading up into that point. So let me know your thoughts down below, like what you've seen so far. Not necessarily care too much for Battle Royale, whatever the case, drop your thoughts. But if you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. Of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Battlefield 6 and plenty of more FPS content I'd love to have in the community. For now though, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.